All right, we are back with another episode of Grinds My Gears, the Grinds My Gears podcast. Thank you for joining me again today. and you know, um, if you're Canadian or if you're just paying attention to world issues, obviously the Canadian election happened last night. So as I mentioned when I brought this thing back, I said that I did not want to make the podcast a political podcast, and that's one of the reasons I stopped for a little bit and I needed a break from it. I did that one last week ahead of this election, just giving my opinion and my thoughts on certain things. But given the results, I figured I should touch on it, but not necessarily directly on the election itself because it. I wouldn't say it is what it is, um, but it is what it is right now. Canada decided to elect another liberal government. Now, what does that mean? It means a lot of things. But like I said, this is not a political podcast. So, what I want to touch on right now is something that I've learned a lot of during my professional career as an athlete and as a coach now too as well. Um, Dealing with loss because as I woke up today, um, I did feel like a feeling of loss for some of us in this country. Most of us, if you ask me, uh, honestly, because I feel like a lot of the democratic system and a lot of democratic processes are fake and rigged. And call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't give a shit. I don't think Canada has free and fair elections, but that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother window of bullshit you can go down to. What a lot of people are feeling this morning is a feeling of loss, feeling of hopelessness, a feeling of no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, no matter what effort you put in, you can never get ahead because of government or parents or school or money or whatever it is, right? And in this case, in this country today, I think you have a flat feeling. It's just I just woke up today and general consensus is a flat feeling, right? And not because the people I follow online and pay attention to more often than not have similar attitudes to me about certain social issues and that kind of thing, but you know, I think the country was hoping for change and that didn't happen. And, now it's kind of like why? And a lot of hopelessness, a lot of what next? What now? A lot of should we give up? And, I wanted to address that, but from a different perspective, because like I said, we're not a political podcast and this is not a political thing. Never will be, never was. Just sometimes it's fun to talk shit about politics, right? Um, so here we go on how to deal with loss and a loss like this because I've dealt with plenty of losses in my life, in my career, and I'm gonna come back to it because like I tell a lot of people, this is the beautiful thing about martial arts and MMA and just training and competing and fighting is you know a lot of times in life you can put 100% of your effort into something. So that can mean, whatever the case it is. But let's go back to sport. Like any athlete, you put 100% of your effort into it. You wake up every day, you grind 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever it is, whatever the schedule it is you follow. You grind, you do your first training session, then you go to work all day. Then you get off work, you get an hour break, you go to your second training session, you train all night, then you go to bed, and do it the next day. A lot of athletes do that, especially coming up. Especially the ones that are not like getting paid highly professional. I mean, I'm looking at the MMA realm. Most athletes that fight martial arts, whether it be jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, or professional MMA, have to work a second job. So they're getting up in the morning. They're either going to work first thing in the morning, they work a day shift, they get off early, they do a first training and then a second training, or some work until 5 p.m. and then just train for fucking 4 or 5 hours in the night, right? Whatever the case, that grind, you put yourself through that, and no one else is going to do that. There's no other people, there's no other person on the planet that's going to put themselves through that punishment, through that. And then you go and you do that, and you get to that day where you go out to perform. And, you know, fighting is a lot like the election. There's a lot of hype up just to come down to one day, right? One time, one period. Now, fighting is obviously, to me, more difficult than politics. That's just straight up. It's more difficult, but everything is boiling down to one day. And on some days, guess what? Just like all world champions, some days you put in all the effort, you put in all the time, you put all your money in it, you get excited about it, you put in everything, everything's about it, and then you just, plain and simple, you have a bad night, you fail, you lose, and that's part of life, right? Every athlete that has ever, actually done athletics to a high standard has experienced failure. I've experienced a ton of failure. Now, I've been lucky that a lot of the competitions that I have entered, I've been successful in, right? But my losses came in a different kind of thing, and I'm going to outline them because I think they'll relate to some people. But my losses came to in the form of injuries, which to me is worse than taking a physical loss. I would have rather lose a match or lose a fight by decision, by knockout, by TKO. I don't give a shit. Than have to go through these massive injuries that I've had to go through. At this point right now, I've had quite a few surgeries. Five or six. I've had my right labrum, my left pec, my left knee done twice, had a hardware removal, so that's 5, and then an Achilles on the right. Throughout my career as an athlete, that's a lot. And here's the thing, and I was kind of explaining this to my wife on the phone earlier because she's absolutely gutted by what happened. You gotta face these setbacks. And like I said, I would have rather taken a hard loss than a fucking Achilles surgery. But you're gonna face setbacks. And I've faced so much setbacks in my life, in my young life, especially to my physical health, that I know what it's like to get knocked down and come back up. And it's very easy for me to say, but it was very hard for me to do. And like I said, I'd rather have lost. The reason, everyone who's having a hard day, hard time processing this, it's just a loss. You didn't, you didn't lose anything physical. You're still awake. You still woke up. You're still good. Your health is still there. You're still able to get up and fight the next day. But when you're injured, when you need surgery, when you physically can't do anything, and you have to have surgery to repair, you're looking at 8 to 10 to 12 months sometimes, depending on the injury, and before you even are thinking about coming back. And like, I'm going to use my latest ACL. I've done my ACL twice now, and I had to reconstruct the ACL again this past July. And, I've been documenting on my personal page, the progress, and it looks great. You're like, fuck yeah, fantastic. Ashton's doing fantastic. Do you know how hard it was? How hard it was to come back from that for the second time? Statistically, after a first ACL surgery, I think it's only like 30% make it back to sport. I made it back to sport, and then I tore it again like 2 years after I did it the first time. So 10 years ago, I tore it again. I had the surgery like 11 or 12 years ago. Then I tore it again, had 2 years after. And it was a high partial, meaning it was pretty much gone. And then I rehabbed, and I did my entire professional athletic career with pretty much without the ACL. It was only until this past year, 2024, I had a little bit of a meniscus tear, which caused the whole joint to go out of limbo. And at that point, the ACL exposed a very glaring weakness in my knee, and I had to redo it. Right? I don't think people understand the difficulty coming back from the second one. The second one, statistically, it's like I think below 10% they make you back to sport, right? And I'm already back to sport, and I'm 9 months in now, so I'm already back to sport. 9 months in, not high level, but for most people, it's high level, right? It's significant, a significant achievement. But there was days that were absolutely terrible, grueling, killed me on the inside. And you know, I'll kind of spend some time right now and highlight that because it's a good example of why you have to persevere when you face hardships, right? And you know, I run a small business, I run a gym, and when I got the news that I had to do this surgery, you know, I'm still very young into the business and running things. I don't have coverage for classes. I'm the sole instructor. I'm relied on to be here for all the kind of programming and get everything done. And now you're telling me that, fuck, you're gonna have to have your knee done, and you're not gonna be able to teach. You're not gonna be able to do certain things. And so, for me, it was a hard thing to deal with. And I had the surgery. I dealt with it like a fucking champ because obviously this is what, number 6, so I've got a lot of experience when it comes to, you know, fucking myself up and putting myself back together. Um, but I was back here instructing within 3 days. I wasn't physically doing anything. I was doing more verbal instruction. I adjusted, um, and I made the necessary adjustments to survive and to keep things going. And that's really what we got to do right now. As I wouldn't say as a country, because as a country we're quite divided. So I wouldn't say we need to do that as a country. I would say that that's what people who were wanting change, and it doesn't even matter what you voted, you just wanted change. People who wanted change and didn't get the change that they wanted. That's what you kind of got to do right now. Is kind of just got to get back in there, right? You got to get back in there. You can't sit back and wait to heal, because that process can take a long time. If I sat back and waited 8 months for the ACL to heal, guess what? My knee would be fucked right now. It's a long, hard rehab. It's a long, hard process. And how I'm going to relate this to what the country is going through is every single day, everyone got up and went to work and did their thing. Every single day I got up during that rehab, I was in pain. My knee felt like shit. My body was inflamed. Like all the inflammation from the knee is just traveling around your body, so your mind is fucked. Um, we all know the research that goes behind what inflammation does to your body now, right? So the inflammation in my body was fucking with my head, fucking with my mood, fucking with everything. I was getting quite sick last year, quite frequently, right? I wasn't getting much rest because I have to run the business still, right? And I had all these things going against me, right? But each and every day I got up and I put in the work. Now, what does that mean, put in the work, when it comes to fucking losing an election and losing hope? Putting in the work means that you can't give up. You have to keep spreading your message. You have to keep fighting, and you have to keep giving it your all, right? Every day is a new day, and you have to keep fighting and keep giving it your all. If you were to, you know, you could take days off for sure, right? But I mean, this is more, you know, that's a rehab. We're talking about real life here. You could take days off of spreading the message, but what you have to do is not forget why you want to change and why you want it to inspire change, right? And here's the thing, you know, I'm 9 months into this recovery, and I'm still having days where I come in here and I just don't want to do it. Like today, I just didn't want to do it. When I woke up today, I was very discouraged because as a Canadian, I realized what was happening and what happened last night and the change that we're not going to get. We're not going to get onto the path that a lot of Canadians want. and a lot of people want, and a lot of people that I know want, a lot of people that I care about want, we're not going to get that change. And so I woke up today very down. I was tired. I had 8 days in a row of work, no days off, so I'm fatigued generally, but I was tired and I was discouraged. And when you're tired and discouraged, you don't want to do anything. And you know what? I said to myself, I came in, I had a few clients, I trained them, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do something to better myself right now, even if it's not much. And I put on my gloves and I got my bag work in and I got some of my knee rehab done and I bettered myself. And that's what you're going to have to do every single day right now is you can't just fold it in, pack it in and say, fuck it. You're going to have to find a way to better yourself, better the message, spread the word, help people realize the things that are going on, so that you can deal with this loss properly, right? Dealing with loss is incredibly hard, whether it be losing a family member, losing politics, losing a game, losing anything. It's incredibly hard. But like they say, time heals all wounds. In this sense, though, time doesn't heal all wounds because time is going to make these wounds bigger. And I think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people know time is going to tell, and mostly it's going to tell is it's going to make things a lot worse in our country, in our communities, and overall, right? And like I said, it's not a political podcast, so I'm not going to go into depth of how things are going to get worse. But I think the most consensus is we were not on a good path, and this didn't solve anything because it's more of the same people doing the same things than change, right? So how do you physically deal with this mentally and emotionally and move past it? And I think that's the theme that we're going on today, and I'm going to continue on for a little bit more about why you should not give up and why you should just and keep going, and how to deal with this loss. And one of the biggest things I can say is, you know what, as an athlete, as a business owner, as a dad, I have never woken up in the morning and said, oh fuck, this political party is in power. Man, they're gonna fuck me up. How is this? That's gonna ruin my day. I've never woken up and cared about who was in power at the moment. I woke up and I cared about what are the things that I'm gonna do to make me happy today. What are the things I'm gonna do to progress my life and my career and my family today. I had never woken up and thought about a political party, and neither should you. Even though it seems shitty, and even though you know it seems hopeless right now, you can't put your eggs in this political party basket, in politics basket, because they're always going to disappoint you, whether you get it or not, whether the outcome and the change that people were seeking last night actually happened. Um, it wouldn't have truly made you happy, because what makes you happy is the things that you do in your life that make it worthwhile, right? And a good friend and client of mine had told me that he never woken up a day in his life and cared about which political party was in power. And at first I didn't really agree with him, and then as I kept thinking about that statement, I understand what he meant, is that your happiness comes from the things you do and the things that make you you, the things that make you get up in the morning, the motivation that you seek. Um, Politicians are just that. They're politicians. They're fake actors. They tell you the things you want to hear because that's their job. They're there to rule, dictate, take over, steal, lie, cheat. Um, that's their role in society. It may not have started that way, but that's how it's ended up. Regardless of what party you want, that's the fucking truth. I'm sorry to break it to you. They're all like it. Right? So wake up tomorrow and know that, you know, nobody has your back. Only you. Only you, the ones you love, and the things you do has your back. So what I mean by that, it means like wake up every day with an intention and a passion to do good for yourself, to do good for the others around you, and none of that shit will matter, right? And that being said, how else do you deal with loss? Because you're like, Ashton, that's a fucking nice speech, but that's not something that I'm capable of doing right now. How do I do that? My family, we can barely afford to eat. We can barely keep up with the bills. Inflation's going to get worse. Taxes are going to go higher. Um, I think the biggest thing that a lot of people are taking away from this situation is, you know, what are all these people who are opposing our views? Like, where are they? Like, how can they not see what's going on? And like I said, normally my tone's a little bit more fuck shit, and I swear and all, but I'm feeling it today, like everybody else. I'm feeling that hopelessness, and I want you guys to know that I feel that too, and that I'm just not saying, oh, whatever. But here's the deal: I spent the last 10 years of my life living in a liberal government, NDP government, shitty country in terms of how it progressed. Worst progression in my time as a Canadian, born and raised Canadian here. But I still somehow managed to make a success of myself. I did that through hard work, dedication, ignoring the noise, ignoring the media, ignoring the naysayers, ignoring the people who said I could or couldn't, ignoring people. I pursued my passion every single day, and regardless of the area or the country or the landscape, I was a success, and that could be you too. So don't think for 1 second that just because the change that you didn't want to happen didn't happen, that you can't be a success. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that when you're dealing with this kind of a loss, you're not just dealing with a loss like you are in sports, or not just dealing a loss like you are, you know, yeah, in sports. It's not the same. You're dealing with loss on a human level. You're dealing with these guys are going to be putting in policies that can make you lose your job, that can make you lose your house, that can make you lose. It could make you lose family because you have to move. It could make you lose kids because you have to move again. Like it could make you lose a lot more than simply just a game or a match or something. These are decisions and things that are affecting people's lives. And how do you deal with that? Well, I mean, putting yourself in good positions before these things happen is definitely good. Like having a good business, having a good job where you're saving some money, you're investing some money, and you have money put away. You have a lump sum. If you needed to get the fuck out, you can get the fuck out. That's always a bonus, but it's pretty much not what Canadians can do right now because of the landscape of the economy. Not everyone is able to save that money because simply they're taking more than you're making, right? So what do you do? How do you not lose hope? Well, you got to look at history, and history kind of dictates everything, right? Let's look at history, and I'm going to look at recent history because for me, recent history hits home. And I've said this in some other podcasts if you go really back, but I'll say it again. The world is designed to make you fear and anxious every second of the way. The media, the news, the role of them is to make you question things and be fearful. So when you're fearful, you're submissive, and when you're submissive, you listen because you don't want loss. And that was our theme of the podcast: say how to deal with loss. You don't want loss, so you listen to those who are more experienced than you, those who have more expertise than you, those who appear to be experts. You listen to them. And you hope that they steer you in the right direction and that you go into the right phase and you get out of this fearful state into a place of content and happiness and a comfortable place. Everyone wants to be comfortable, correct? Yes, I want to be comfortable. You want to be comfortable, but that's why I do jiu-jitsu, so that I'm uncomfortable as frequently as possible, so that I know how to keep growing as a human. But that's the role of the media and government, is to make you so frequently anxious and fearful that you listen. That's it, right? So now you need to now that you know that, now that you've kind of felt that, you've felt that energy from them, you need to look at history. We're going to go back to the history, and we just went through it, and I'm going to remind you, because world's happening so fast right now, people kind of forget, right? Especially from 2019 to 2025, the last 6 years, a lot of people forget, because they were slow for some, they were fast for others. They were fast for me because I took it as an opportunity. I saw the opportunities to build and to take something into my own hands, and I came out a winner out of the last 6 years, but a lot of people came out the loser. And now you have this Canadian election, and you're a loser again, and you're dealing with this loss and this fear. And the loss and the fear makes you want to seek comfort. And the only way to seek comfort is by keeping the status quo. Right? And so you are now in a position where you're looking at what happened during the COVID years. They made you fearful. They promised you a solution. The solution came. The solution didn't work. What ended up happening was we have to live with it. And what are we doing right now? We're living with it. People are still getting COVID, except now nobody gives a fuck. I don't know. I told you, or started this podcast last year, I was sick a lot because I was overworked. The inflammation in my body was incredibly high. I was trying to work in academy and recover from a knee surgery, and I was pretty depressed at the start. And I guarantee half the times I got sick, I was COVID. It's definitely COVID, right? So you look at the history, is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? They're going to do this, and it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. COVID all of a sudden became a part of life, and then no one's fucking talking about it anymore. And they gave you the solutions. Solutions were the vaxes and the pills and the Paxlovid and the what else? Staying home and the mask and whatever. It's no different than what's happening right now. They pander to you that they're going to give you the solutions to your life. They give you a few band-aids, they put in a few policies, and then, it's more of the same shit. And then when COVID ended or was finishing, they started a war. They started a war in the Ukraine. And all of a sudden, the anxiety came back. It's going to lead to World War III, yada, yada, yada. Here we are a few years later. No World War yet, and a whole lot of money laundering happening in Ukraine. Right? And then, those terrorists go into Israel and do all that shit, and now you have another war going on. And one group's killing a whole lot of other people, and everyone's saying genocide this, genocide that, yada, 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 fuck this, fuck that, blah, blah, blah. Now you have a Canadian election, and you don't get the change you want. You're dealing with the loss. See, everybody's dealing with loss. It's how you respond to it that makes and defines you. And I've outlined a few different ways of how I've dealt with loss, but I want to say this and I want to say this, and then we're going to move on a little bit and kind of touch on some other areas about what happened. But when you're defining this loss, if you let them define you, you're going to lose completely. So what do I mean by that? I mean, like, yes, take a day or two and feel really shitty that the change is not going to happen. But rest assured, change doesn't happen overnight. Change is not going to happen, even if the change that we wanted to won yesterday, change is not going to happen overnight. And you need to do the right things and the right steps to help you and your family deal with that loss. And what does that mean? It might mean finding other people who are like-minded, connecting with them, talking with them, um, maybe going out with them, having a coffee with them, sharing your frustrations, and letting yourself know that you're not the only one. Because a lot of the times when you're experiencing loss, um, you feel like you're the only one. And guess what? There's are millions of people in this country, and a lot of the millions that woke up today are feeling the same thing that you're feeling. So you can't let yourself get down on it. You can't let yourself get down on it and feel like you're the only one, because you're not the only one. There's millions of people going through the exact same thing that you're going through and thinking the exact same thing. The problem is the media and the governments and all these fucking guys don't want you to think like that. So you have to realize there's more of you than them, right? It's their job to make you think that you're alone. So don't feel alone. Don't feel left out. Don't feel like you're the only one, because you're not. There's a lot of people who wanted change that didn't get the change that they wanted. And guess what? If you stick together, you're going to get some sort of change. It might not be the change that you wanted, but it might be the change in a life that you realize, hey, these are the people that care about me and the values that I represent and the way I think things should go. And they share the same ideals. They share the same everything. You know what? Instead of wasting my time with this group of people, I'm going to spend some time with this group of people. And then you're going to realize your happiness, right? What when anything like this comes out, what I see is, like, like I said, like, I'll go into my feed, and obviously I don't fucking follow a lot of a lot of liberal shit, but there are people in my feed that are liberals and they're happy, and good for you. Congratulations. I'm happy for you that you got what you want, but at the same time, I'm not happy for you, right? And it's my job now to push forward. It's my job now to continue to spread joy in the world and continue to spread the message that I have, that we need as a country, and we need it for my family, right? Because dealing with the loss is hard, but getting up after the loss is the harder part. And I can tell you this: the people who wanted to change yesterday are the people who can get up after the loss and keep moving forward. Don't go on social media and complain and whine and cry. Like, what was that? Who's that fucking singer? She was crying about when Donald won. The stupid Disney Channel chick. Whatever her name is. She's like Mexican. She's crying because all the Mexicans are getting deported. They're deported. I don't know what to do. Like, don't do that shit. We're better than that. We're stronger than that. We're not going to complain when we face a loss. We're going to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and fucking come back and punch you in the throat. And I don't mean that in real life. We're not encouraging violence. What I'm saying is we're going to come back and we're going to eventually get what we need to get done. And it's going to be done better. And people are going to realize it was the right way. And, we're not going to have that loss and that feeling of loss. And so, as much as you're feeling that and I'm feeling that, just know that, things will get better, but they're going to get worse before they get better. And so, now that we've kind of talked about how to deal with that loss and how I deal with loss, and how, you should deal with loss, fuck it. I got about 10 minutes here, 10 minutes left. So I'm going to dive right into to fuck it land and say, okay, what happened last night was fucked up. There's extreme positives about what happened last night. Do you see this huge gain the Conservative Party made? They made a gigantic gain. They gained a lot of seats and they gained a lot of momentum. There was a huge fucking shift. You can tell there's a shift. There's a shift in mentality. I had kids that train here as their first time voting, and they were so ecstatic about how they voted. And I don't want them to get discouraged. That's the whole thing is, people who voted this time, you didn't get what you wanted, don't get discouraged just because it didn't happen. Now, I can go on and on and on if I think the fucking voting was real or not, because I think it's a lot of fucking rigged shit going on. Um, Fuck it, I'm going to go on a rant right now. Pierre Poilievre's writing. For fuck's sakes, if that's not election interference, I don't fucking know what is. Okay, so here's the thing. I live in Toronto, St. Paul's. They did the same shit in the by-election last year. Those cuckhole fucks flooded the ballot. When I went to go vote, it was like a 3-page long ballot. It was like 78 fucking people. They flooded the vote. What's his name? Don Stewart won that riding barely. He won by a fucking couple votes. They flooded the fucking ballot because they were trying to do some sort of thing. Then they flooded the fucking ballot on Pierre yesterday. Tell me how a politician who has been representing his riding for like fucking decades, and then takes the CPC party to a fucking new level of support that they haven't seen before in the fucking party's history, loses his riding. You think we're that stupid? That was election interference beyond fucking magic. Okay? And also, too, we already proved that China did some fucking election interference. Why is there not people more outcrying about the way elections are run in this fucking country? It's absolutely stupid. It's absolutely dumb, right? That was bullshit. And I'm sorry, I said I was not going to make a political one, but fuck it. Who cares? I got a little bit of time left. I'm going to fucking go off. That's what I do, baby. So that was bullshit, right? And you know what? The news outlets calling the election before the votes were counted. There were ridings where the votes didn't even start getting counted yet, and they already started calling the election. Also, too, the Elections Canada website was down, from what I understand. The only creditable source to call an election should be Elections Canada, but it was down, and the media was calling the election. It shows you the level of corruption. The level of corruption is outrageous. The coordinated attack the media used, combined with the Liberal government and the NDP government, to attack other political opponents and other people who supported those little political opponents, is absolutely atrocious. And here's the thing, and I think this is where most people are frustrated, and I'm frustrated too, is now you're heading into this weird fucking part of society, weird part of time where, people like me who just go on their podcast and talk a whole bunch of shit, we're going to be reprimanded. I'm going to be reprimanded. This show's going to get reprimanded. I don't give a fuck. I don't make money off of it. I do it for fun, right? But, the policies that are going to be put through to censor and block any opposing view is going to come, and it's going to come swift. And I think that those who voted for that will regret it in the future. And I think that what's going to have to happen is for Canada to fall off a complete fucking cliff before change is instituted. We were falling off a cliff before, but now we fell off the fucking cliff. And I want to say one thing to a group of people out there that I'm pretty disappointed in. And this is not all, so I don't want it to be a big attack on this specific group of people, but it's for a majority of them. And those are the baby boomers. I'm talking to you out there. As a dad, I'm 35 years old. I'm a dad, successful business owner. I'm working my way up in the world. There's a lot of things I still can't afford. There's a lot of things I can't afford. Right? In a bad economic time, I live comfortably, which is hard for a lot of people to say. And I live comfortably because I do well, and I work hard, and I grind. And if you knew the amount of hours that I put in, you would cry because you couldn't do it. Between running the business, and I don't just run a business. It's not as easy as producing some shit and selling some shit. I sell my skills. So I have to constantly be building my skills. And if you were paying attention in this podcast, you would realize I just had an ACL reconstruction and I still built my skills. So my skill set depends on how much we make. My skill set depends on how much we make. And so I work my ass off. And when I sit here and I think about things and I think about the future, I think about my children. And I don't always just think about my children. I think about my children's children. How can they afford shit? How are they going to be able to go by? And I look at what's happened in the last decade here. And I'm going to say this to the fucking baby boomers. You guys are pieces of shit. You don't care. You don't care. You're one of the most thankless generations for some people who went through some pretty shitty stuff in your time. Instead of thinking about what's going to happen when you're gone, you're thinking about what's happening when you're here. And that's very sad, because what I'm thinking about right now is the incredible amount of work I'm putting in to build something special. I'm trying to put things together, trying to do things like this podcast to reach people, to talk to people, to increase the conversations on the critical things that we need to talk about, so that the people, the kids that I'm coaching, the kids that I'm raising, the kids that I'm helping grow up in my gym and my facility have a better future than what I have. I would sacrifice everything so that the people that are coming up can have better than me. I will take a little bit of hardship so that the younger folks can have better than me. The reason I started this gym and the way I coach and the way I coach is, and I tell this to my students all the time, is I coach them the way I wish I was coached. There's a lot of stuff I missed out on. There's a lot of stuff I missed out on. There's a lot of stuff I wish I had, but I didn't have access to. I didn't have the people who cared about me enough to do it for me. I didn't care about the people that didn't care about me enough to help me with it. And so now, the position I'm in, I care enough about the younger people to help put them in a position to be more successful than I was. And the baby boomers are only thinking about them fucking selves and their future. And guess what? Your future is fucking limited. You're old. The hard truth about life is you're going to die at some point. Pretty soon, unfortunately. And you don't think about others. You're only thinking about yourself. And what you've done now is you've made it almost impossible for my generation, 30, 35, more 25 to 35 basically. You made it almost impossible for the generation underneath them, 15 to 25, to own a home, to own assets, to start a family. You've made it impossible. And I want to thank you for that, because as me personally, you've lit a fucking fire under my ass to keep going hard, and to keep spreading a better message than you guys spread. And it's a shame, because the amount of hardships that you guys went through, you would think you would know better than to fuck over the most younger than you. And I really, really didn't want to say it and didn't really want to go off on a tangent, but it's called the Grind My Gears podcast, so fuck it. You fucked up. And this is coming from somebody who is willing to help you still willing to do good for you. But you fucked 2 generations. You fucked us hard. You fucked us right up the, you know what, the ass. You fucked us hard. And you know what? I'm still going to wake up every day as a good old Christian and say, do you need a hand? But you didn't extend it out to us when we needed one. And that's where I'm going to end today. So I hope this was, I try not to get too political. I know I just went off on a fucking rant, but I try not to get too political. I just wanted to help people deal with this loss. It's a loss for a lot of people in Canada and this country. But you know what? Do not lose hope. There's people like me out there. There's tons of people like me out there that want change, that are willing to spread change. Don't get scared. Don't be in fear. Don't wake up tomorrow thinking that the life is over, because it's not. We need to persevere. We need to stick together. And guess what? You know what? We will not be united under this government. We will not be united. At this point, I'm going to flat out say Canada will not ever be united again. I think it's time that certain groups of people who believe one way and certain groups of people who believe another way agree to disagree and go their own ways. I don't think we can coexist that much anymore, because it's gone too far. And it's hard for me to say that, but we'll get into that in another episode. I got to get out of here, but Thank you for tuning in. I hope I didn't go off too political. The next one we're gonna do is gonna be great. I have a great one planned for next week, and some cool topics to deal with, certain things in health and fitness that are coming next week. Cool episodes, and we're gonna have a few guests coming on over the next couple weeks. So stay tuned. It's gonna be great. We're just starting. We're just getting started this thing. I'm gonna take this thing global. It's gonna be fucking amazing. And thank you for joining the Grind My Gears podcast. Hope you had a wonderful day. And you know what? Stay frosty. We're not going anywhere. Canada's good. And don't be sad. Peace out.